All right, I'll say it. Benjamin St. Juste's ability to pick up key penalties in dumb spots is just wild. He has a reputation at this point, and I don't know what you do about that. The lack of continuity on the offensive line, I think, is really hurting this team, starting in the pass protection. The Biotish to Dieter drop-off as just pure players is fairly significant, and you see it a couple times in this game where Dieter gets beat quickly. The first third down of the game, Micah Parsons, look, Michael Dieter can go on a list with basically every offensive lineman that Micah Parsons has lined up one-on-one over ever to say that he lost quickly. Like, Micah's amazing. But, man, that is a quick loss. And there's a reason why they're picking to put him over the center, where if it's against Biotish, perhaps he's over, say, Nick Allegretti, or they find another spot to line him up over. But that is a big drop-off. The communication is just not as good. There are times where the slides are not as clean, or someone seems to be going the wrong way. There's funky timings. There's one play where Marcus has a zone read pull, even where the snap is just Marcus has to one-hand catch the snap. And so there's a lot of stuff there. And I think having a little more depth in the middle next year is going to be a priority not as a priority, but on the to-do list for Adam Peters this offseason. I also think that Jayden at times is just not seeing the field as well later in the season. And there's times where he's super on it. The New Orleans game, he was super on it. But on the first series of the game, Cliff gets him. It's a 3-play series, and Cliff dials up 3 easy completions for Jayden. The first one, there's no throw. It seems like Zach Ertz is wide open, and it's just the simplest quick game there is. Just like everyone run 5 yards, turn around, and Zach Ertz is wide open. Jayden's looking at him. For some reason, he doesn't throw it. Pass pro holds up long enough to get the ball out if it's a quick game. And instead, he winds up taking a sack. Second down, they get a nice little out pattern to Ertz against a cover 6. O-line does a really good job. They get 11 yards. Sweet. Now we're back to 3rd and 3. And you got man coverage. And, again, this is the one where super quick loss. I don't know who to put this on. Clearly, it's a bad rep for Dieter. But Parsons just smokes him. But Terry wins on a shallow cross immediately. And he's running right in front of Jayden. Now, Jayden might not be able to see it because Parsons is in his face so fast, in which case, if I were to talk to Jayden and Jayden were to be like, yeah, dude, I couldn't see anything. I was just like, oh, crap, 11's coming. I'm dead. Then I'm not going to put that on Jayden. But I do think a more veteran quarterback might be able to see through that, and that's something where when Jayden becomes that more veteran quarterback, it's a potential growth opportunity. So it is just one of those things that when you're breaking down football, you can point there, point there, point there. A lot of different people have a way in every single play, but there are definitely a couple times in this game where you're like, dude, just throw the ball. And it seemed like in some ways similar to the first Dallas game, at times he was big play hunting. And that's not definitely when this offense or where he is at his best.
Number 5.
The other place that the offensive line is clearly hurting is the running back run game. And I know everyone likes to complain about B-Rob, and I'm not telling you B-Rob is just absolutely crushing it, and I'll get to him more in a moment. But the amount of dirty looks they're getting right now and the lack of movement in the run game is really not good enough. You just have to be able to move the line of scrimmage. One of my favorite things when I'm watching film is when a team gets a run, or I guess it's one of my least favorite things if it happens to Washington, is what looks like a no-gain run where the running back just runs into the back of the offensive line and gets tackled, and then all of a sudden you look up and it was a 4-yard gain. And you're like, oh, the offensive line moved the line of scrimmage that much? Dang. And the Commanders just aren't doing that on any regular basis right now. All of their plus runs are coming when a running back's able to hit a hole and get to the second level. There is very little of the just, hey, we took the line of scrimmage and we moved it down the field. And Eckler had a couple of nice runs where he's able to squeeze through holes because he's super decisive. And that's the thing I would like to see from B-Rob is it's not even a vision thing. It's a decisiveness thing. Hey, let's not try to wiggle through this hole. It's let's hit it right now and trust that the hole is going to open. And Eckler had a couple of those, including this really nice weak side zone Wanda carry that I was like, ooh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And you get a 7-yard gain when he just shoots through the hole, and next thing you know, he's getting tackled by a safety. And I think Chris Rodriguez does that really well at times. And I'm still not really sure why he can't get more looks. But B-Rob's a starter, and it is what it is.
Number 6.
I thought Mark Sanchez made a really astute point yesterday during the broadcast, which is if this defense ever wants to become elite, they have got to start turning the ball over. And they're good at creating opportunities. You have guys in position to make plays. Frankie had another drop last week, which I think I'm obligated to try to bring up as many times as possible last week, because the last time he got hit in the face with the football, we brought it up constantly, and then he got a pick. So we're gonna take credit for that. Frankie, I'm sorry for saying all those things, but we're gonna have to do it again. But he had a drop yesterday, and I think there's a couple other opportunities in the game where a little bit more decisiveness, a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. You're getting the ball tipped up in the air and it falls to the ground. You just gotta have a better sense for it. And I think one of the guys that has been around the ball more times this year is Quan Martin. And I think that him being out yesterday really hurt. I think there's a couple of the big plays that Dallas gets, even on the first drive, where I think Quan shuts those down faster. Maybe, Noah Igbenogany falls down on a crossing route. I think Quan Martin sees that happen and just blitzes that dude and is like, I'm going to pick up this crosser. I think there's another play where I think Quan probably has a faster reaction than Percy Butler. And you got to get around the ball. You can't just rely on, hey, we'll bend but don't break and things will work out in the red zone. Although yesterday, if we could, number 7, please.
Number 7.
Things worked out in the red zone. You cannot play like that against Tampa, though. They are way too good. And I think in the red zone, what you are relying upon as an offense is decisiveness, conviction, and detail. And the Cowboys do not have, in their current state or in their state yesterday, Trey Lance playing in his first game in basically 2 years, meaningful snaps, starting his first game in 2 years. He's not going to be precise. That's not who he is as a player, and he has not had the reps banked to have that down there. And he's not going to be super decisive, and he's not going to throw with conviction. There's no one in the NFL that throws with more conviction than Baker Mayfield. And if there is a window that it might be open, he will drill a ball. And if he sees a guy open, he's going to make sure that ball gets there. And from the lack of detail, the lack of playmakers where there's no individual brilliance really down there, because the only individual brilliance they have is like long speed, which can't have long speed in a short area. And Lance like just missing that fourth down, for instance. That's the red zone defense did a lot of really great things yesterday. Some of the run stuffs they have down there, fantastic. But you're not going to get away with that level at that output against Tampa, nevertheless, Philly or anyone else, Detroit, anyone else you're going to play for the rest of the season.
Number 8.
One thing I really appreciated about the offensive game plan, Cliff had a very concerted effort to get Terry McLaurin involved. And I know it doesn't feel like that in the first half, but there's a bunch of plays that Terry doesn't get the ball because the pass rush gets home, Jayden doesn't see him, something stupid happens elsewhere. But like it was pretty clear. I was like, oh, I feel like Terry's the target here a lot. And then in the second half, it starts to play out even more, and he ultimately finishes with 12 targets. But it easily could have been 15 or more if the quarterbacks make a few different decisions. And what I appreciate, too, about Cliff and about Marcus and Jayden has been this way at times this year as well, is big moments. Man, there's some stuff that could have been a lot easier. But Terry's our guy. Force feed it, and Terry came through. There's a big catch on a dig. There's a big catch on a slant. And they're really tough catches. But he made them because he's Terry freaking McLaurin / scary Terry McLaurin. Boo, touchdown, franchise record, salute. Really, really happy that Terry has that record, especially in this season, because it just feels like it helps tell the story of the season of just how magical he has been.
Number 9.
I still can't believe Olamide Zaccheaus dropped that ball on the reverse pass from De'Ami Brown. De'Ami could not have dropped the ball better. I don't know what happened. I know sometimes there's a sun thing down there, but OZ, who's been fantastic and deserves so much credit, looked like he had never caught a deep ball in his life. I made this joke last night on the Take Command Instant Reaction show that we did with Grant Paulson. But, to talk about like the bread basket, all you got to do is like hold out your basket and let it fall in. It looked like OZ took his basket and like turned it upside down, and then the ball hit the top of the basket, and you're like, the hole's on the other side, bro. Like you got to flip that. It was bad, but it was a great play. Hopefully it works next time.
Number 10.
All right, I'll say it. Benjamin St. Juste's ability to pick up key penalties in dumb spots is just wild. Pretty good for most of the day yesterday. played some really good coverage. Sometimes like Noah's falling down, giving up big plays. Who's in lockdown coverage on the other side? BSJ. Covering deep stuff, doing the things he's supposed to do. And you get in the second half in a tight spot, penalty, correct call on the hold. The PI is atrocious. Like, that one's tough because if I'm the DB's coach, I'm like, hey, man, do the same thing again. They're not going to call it next time because it's not a penalty. But the thing is, he has a reputation at this point, and I don't know what you do about that. You go somewhere else and get a new number and hope that referees don't recognize you or something, because he gets so many tic-tac calls where I think he plays the ball really well. From a coaching standpoint, I don't know what the coaching point would be different, but he's got to figure out how to play with even less contact. And if that means he gives something up, I guess it means he gives something up. But the penalties are absolutely killer. And he had another couple yesterday, even though, by and large, I thought he actually played a pretty good game. But that is the Benjamin St. Juste experience. I would rather opt for the Marshawn Lattimore experience, especially when that is the Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans experience. And there's at best, or at worst, a 50-50 chance that they fight.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.